Proud Boys trial, day 37 continues, and we have a little bit of a recap to do before we jump into the minute entry that came out of the court for the date of 3/14/2023. We are going to talk about the indictment and remind ourselves about what these people are being charged with, because we have 5 co-defendants in this case. And a good question came up about, well, why are they all being tried together? Why aren't they being tried independently? For example, why isn't Ethan Nordean having a separate trial, separate from Joseph Biggs or from Zachary Rehl? And the question is really answered by the charge. They want to get these people on conspiracy. This was the original indictment. This was something that we saw back in June 2022, and we've poked a lot of fun at this indictment because it's kind of ridiculous. But before we dive into day 37, and remember, we're about to start the defense case in chief, here's what we're dealing with. Seditious conspiracy. Oh, yeah. That's the one it took them forever to figure out, right? From 1/6/2021 all the way to June 6, 2022. They had to go find some group. And this is part of the defense. They're saying you had to find a group. That's why it took you so long. You were trying to single out anybody you could latch your teeth onto because you wanted to turn this into something that's much bigger than reality, right? We were mocking them for not having any seditious conspiracy charges. We still mock them for not having any insurrection charges. That's also a U.S. code law. It's a criminal statute in this country, and nobody's been charged with it. So why do they keep saying it? Anyways, so seditious conspiracy was one of the charges, and you can't have a conspiracy if you've got one person who's being charged independently. So they had to bundle up all of these defendants and then bring them forward together. And now you'll notice that one of the defense strategies, and we saw a lot of this yesterday, was for each individual defendant and their defense attorney to single them out. And I think we saw that probably most evidently with Zachary Rehl. Yesterday, his attorney, Carmen Hernandez, was very articulate in saying Zachary Rehl wasn't hanging out with any of these people. All of the exhibits, all the videos, all the evidence you presented, he wasn't anywhere near them at all. So he's trying to sort of say, my client is not like the others. One of these things just doesn't belong here, and trying to remove him from this giant conspiracy. And recall that what they have done here, as in all of these, is they've blamed every single person for interfering with American democracy, which is the most insane thing that you've ever heard, especially if that's all it takes is a couple, literally like 300 violent people. There's about 326 violent crimes up at this point, one of which you're going to see is an assault on an officer, which involves a water bottle. But the point is, this was the same paragraphs, all the same litany background, Proud Boys, a pro-Western fraternal organization, 38 years old. They tell us all about these people. But these were the charges. And here they have to articulate the conspiracy, right? This is an actual statute. It's actual charge. And so that's why these people have to be bundled up. The manner and the means of the conspiracy, they were all working together. One of the worst things that they did, these violent maniacs, was assaulting law enforcement officers. Okay, now this is in the indictment, the acts furthering the conspiracy, so on. We're waiting to see what the charges look like, and we want to identify what this violence was. What was this violence that they were involved in that was so horrific? Well, let's see. As we go down, they're giving us the big book report. All these FBI agents spent, looks like about 18 months writing this book report, doing all of their Where's Waldo games. Finally, they write it, they submit it, they say we've got enough to arrest everybody. So count 1 was the conspiracy. Count 2 is they're impeding an official proceeding. Like literally, this group of 5 dudes are impeding the Electoral College vote. All right. We have count 3, which was obstruction, which is, kind of like the same thing. It's like a duplicative charge. So it's interfering, impeding an official proceeding. And then it's also here, we're now going to be basically the same thing, obstructing the proceeding. All right. So count 4, a conspiracy to prevent an officer from discharging his duties by threatening and forcing officers couldn't go and do other things while they were there. Here's another one, count 5, civil disorder, aiding and abetting. These are like disorderly conduct charges you'll get at your local bar. Count 6, destruction of government property. Now there, I see Dominic Pizzola in particular was seen sort of smashing windows, and there's other, property damage that they're attributing to other people. And we don't condone that, but it's again, it's not a seditious conspiracy to create criminal damage during a riot. It's not impeding the functioning of American democracy. That's what an insane person would say. Other people would say this is a riot where people just broke some property. We don't condone that. We don't support that. I love the Capitol. Been there. It's a beautiful place, and I want it to continue to remain. But the point is, it's not an insurrection. All right. Now, count 7, as you can see, is another criminal damage charge, destruction of government property, which is very duplicative to count 6. And then we get to the big one. Now, everybody is saying, oh my God, first of all, have you seen any violence yet in any of those preceding 7 charges? No, you haven't. You've only seen disorderly conduct, some criminal damage. You've seen obstruction, which, was basically everybody that day. So they're singling these guys out because they were apparently communicating about it, which is what creates the conspiracy. Then we get to count 8, the very first inkling of anything resembling violence, right? Assaulting and resisting or impeding certain officers for all of these people. Now, what is the conduct that is making up this criminal charge? Here's what they say. In count 2, that these people, all 5 of those co-defendants, did forcibly assault an officer and an employee of the United States. They assaulted a federal agent? I don't condone assaulting a federal agent at all. Let's see what happened here. I mean, this must be monstrous because they've dedicated about 2.5 years to this. Let's see what they did. What was the conduct? Oh, here it is. Oh, there it is. By throwing a water bottle at law enforcement. They threw a water bottle, man. That's the assault on an officer? Now, I don't know if it was full. Water bottles can be pretty heavy and they can hurt if they hit you in the head. Or was it just an empty water bottle? They don't even tell us in here. So that's the violent assault of all of the things that we saw. That's it. I hope not. Maybe there's more. Let's see here. Yeah, here's another one. Okay, here it is. Physical contact. There it is. A little bit more. So now we get a little bit. While such person was engaged, they did make physical contact with an officer. This is what count 9 has. But we don't know what that means. Did forcibly assault and did make physical contact while they were performing their duties. All right. Well, again, that's it. So as far as I can tell, it's physical contact, and assault is such a low threshold statute that is really true, right? If you just touch somebody or if you put somebody in reasonable apprehension of imminent offensive contact, that's kind of enough. You don't even have to really hit them. So they did make physical contact in this case, but we don't know. Was it injuries? Was it another water bottle? Was it a little flower that may have brushed one of their shoulders? Did somebody open a window and cause a heavy breeze to flow through the Capitol? And an officer was like, oh gosh, I'm cold. How dare you? Shut that window right now. You're under arrest. I don't know. But apparently a water bottle is enough to necessitate an entire charge for 5 people as part of a conspiracy. So it's very dramatic is my point of all of this. So we don't know what the physical contact was. Count 10 did try to take property from a Capitol Police officer. That's it. Signed by Matthew Graves. That's the criminality here. That's the seditious conspiracy from these 5 people, the Proud Boys. Kind of a joke, right? It's disorderly conduct. It's criminal damage. It's water bottles. And it's other assaults. Now, what they want to do here is they want to keep showing you this imagery, this J6 imagery of violent imagery, and say that every single person who was there is responsible for all of that. And that's not fair. That's not right at all. If there were 100,000 people there, and let's say 1,000 people got charged with crimes, and of those 1,000, 300 of them, give or take, were violent, and of the 300, maybe half of those were actually violent and the other half were water bottles. I don't know. And it's really a tiny little sliver of a fraction of violence, right? Everybody else was peaceful, give or take. So it's a joke. Now, that is the refresher on that. We talked about the water bottle. It just gets me every time by throwing a water bottle at a police officer. Okay, so that happens at like every football game, right? Somebody's hit with a water bottle all the time. You go to a football game, you go to a rowdy sporting event, hit with a water bottle. Did you see any arrests made during the summer of 2022 for water bottle assaults in Minneapolis, for example? No, you didn't. So it's just they're stretching, right? They're really grasping at straws, and they want to go here, and they needed some assault charges in here for sure. So they dug up a water bottle. All right, that is what they are being charged with.